Our Beechwood Board of Education April 14th meeting. Welcome, everyone. We appreciate you coming in tonight. And Lori, would you like to do roll call?
Sure. Mrs. Berger?
Here.
Mr. Burns?
Here.
Mr. Hood?
Here.
Mrs. Sleet?
Here.
Mrs. Wooten?
Here.
Okay, and we don't have any recognition of guests, I guess.
We do not.
Public comment. We have two people listed for public comment. Maria Sanders, would you like to come up? You can have a seat right there.
Good evening. My name is Maria Sanders. My son is a junior. I'd like to address the consent agenda item regarding the college and career counselor job description. I've communicated today with a few members of the board, and based on those conversations, I'm hopeful that what I have to say tonight is moot. Our counseling department is so vital to our students' wellness and success, though, that I want to go on record, if only to hammer that point home. Our current counseling structure is doubtlessly the envy of many Kentucky public schools, with grades 7 to 12 students spread evenly alphabetically across 3 counselors. This is the high school, if I didn't make that clear. In addition to relatively manageable caseloads, the key feature of this structure is the continuity of care from grade 7 to grade 12, and the deep, trusting student counselor bonds that permits. Our neighbor Boone County's tragic streak of teen suicides bleakly signals that we should not tinker with these relationships nor reduce mental health and wellness services. As is at Beechwood, each student cultivates a relationship with their counselor over several years, and thank goodness, because they then hold the hand of someone they trust during grades 11 and 12, the apex stress test of their high school careers. The anxiety marathon during which our kids suffer the most challenging course loads and peak pressures of ACT testing, college admissions, and decision-making that will change the course of their lives. There is/was some confusion as to whether the proposed job description, particularly its reference to 11th and 12th grade college counseling, would subvert the department's structure in a way that would conceivably, 1, increase counselor caseloads, or 2, reshuffle college counseling duties away from Mr. Brinkman and Ms. Minton. Ms. Berger wrote to explain to me today that counselor caseloads will not shift, and that nothing in the new job description would change Mr. Yankee's ability to work with the counseling department and structure it as he sees fit. I understand other board members have received that assurance as well. I'd appreciate tonight any clarification regarding this posting and any change it portends. Thank you all for your responsiveness today, and for understanding that emotional wellness services and academic advising should remain inextricably linked with college and career counseling for our upperclassmen. I appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Thank you, Maria.
Thank you.
Mr. Steinberg?
Good evening. My name is Cal Steinberg, and
A guess on that. I don't think there'll be a huge shift, but I have not seen a drop in property assessments in relation to houses that have recently sold. But we don't see a huge increase either, though. We took the assumption of a 1%. We took the assumption just for the numbers on a 4% tax increase, which is an estimate of $322,000. Again, you all will know exactly what you're looking at when the new SEEK formula and all the SEEK allocation sheet comes out in July. A step, which is approximately 1.4% on average, and plus 2% increase in pay for all staff. $1 across the board and for every hourly staff, which again, you can see the estimates in that. Increase in SEEK base, 446. Our student population is up, and we're hoping the SEEK dollars translate into that. Increase in contingency by 497. For those of you all that have been around, you know that we had to dip into contingency on the property assessment loss back a couple of years ago. The normal range, which was due to that property assessment. We all right back there, guys? Just making sure. So you see the carry forward is 1.48, around 1.5 million. Step plus 2, and I say a step, it really should be like a 3.4% for salaried,
Total.
and a $1 across the board for hourly. Again, that is under the your total student body, right? You never know if we're going to go up. The last several years, we've increased our student body numbers, so we're presently surprised whenever we come back for our yearly allocations. You will get a report generated by Christy that'll show a flat rate. We usually do a 2%, a 3%, and a 4%. So you will get those projections after they are made public in July. Then you can come back and double check these numbers to make sure that you're still on the plus value. Outside of that, a couple of things to highlight. We're maintaining our rates that the board has sought to seek with our percentage of paid to staff. We're holding pretty good on that. Things that we're not holding well on or that are different or an increase in cost, property value insurance and just insurance in general, casual liability, all of that continues to be an area of concern because that has been on an upward trajectory for the last couple of years. Supplies are increasing in cost. Utilities are increasing in cost. So some of those fixed numbers that usually hold pretty consistent over time have definitely not held as consistent as we've seen early on in my career. But with that said,
So what about with like the new building? Like, do we have a projection of what the new building's costing versus like what we were paying?
I mean, we only have a projection that even though we increase space, it is way more efficient. And therefore, we think the cost will be flat or a decrease in relation to the old building. Now, what you can't do is the last 2 years we haven't had the old building, so we've only been running X amount of space, right? So you put 70,000 square foot on top of that. But if you go back to 3 years ago, Chrissy's tried to look at what that would be with the increase in costs, and I'd say it'll be about flat.
Can we go back to the PVA? I'm just curious, the 1% increase in PVA values, how does that compare to years past? Is that conservative? Is that aggressive?
Last year was around that 1%, and then the year before is when we had the big jump, which was like 31%. And prior to that, it hovered around like 2%, and then on a reassessment year, which is when we got that big hit, it used to be like 4%. So that's what's so different. So it's kind of a different environment. We're trying to relearn everything, but
Okay.
I feel
Well, it's a very conservative.
yeah, it's
Very
conservative.
conservative.
This is conservative.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
Okay.
That is very conservative.
Okay. Great.
I mean, you could always be surprised. I don't think there's a need to be aggressive on that based on the home sales that we're seeing, but that's the assumption we took.
Sure. Okay, thank you.
Any other specific questions on the budget? I mean, it's strong. I mean, you are still holding a strong, I mean, the fact that we're starting to rebound from the 31.7%, 32% increase on property assessments, we're starting to rebound from that. I've told everybody, in our discussions that, especially around January, we're probably looking at about 18 more months, before we're fully rebounded. But that's also based on what you do in August and how aggressive you are in some different areas in August and then in May. Any other questions?
No, I had asked Christy earlier about the collection fees because they seem to go up, but it just correlates to how much. So.
Yep.
I also have I'm just curious, actually. I'm looking at the budget now. The textbooks budget is going from, like, it was 60,000, 57, 53, up to 246 projected for next year. Is it new curriculum?
We still have,
or-
we put a
Okay.
new reading series in place that we were able to do over time, and then a new math series that we had some grant money and able to do over time. But then we added a new reading series that, again, that's what we were all talking about. That may have been the month before you came on, right? Curriculum resources, it's, people don't always understand the price tag that comes along with those, but it's been 7 years, since we had updated, so it was time. And that's a cost that, we always talk about 1, 3, 5, and 7 year cycles. Textbooks are definitely on that between 5 and 7 year cycle.
Okay, that's great. All about new materials, for
There you
sure.
go. Any other specific questions on the budget? All right.
I
that's
always
all I
think it's
have.
funny that we go through this before we know what actually is going to happen, but
I think it's always good to put that on record at the board meeting because there are very few systems in that position. But as a seek loser, you never 100% understand exactly what your budget's going to be. It's been one of the hardest things to get my head wrapped around as a superintendent because you have two whammies. Number one, you're a seek loser. And number two, you have a small budget. I mean, in comparison to, like a Boone County or Kenton County or even a Campbell County, your margin of error is just so much larger.
Okay, are we ready?
Ready? Mrs. Berger?
Yes.
Mr. Burns?
yes.
Mr. Hood?
Yes.
Mrs. Slate?
Yes.
Mrs. Wood?
Yes.
Okay, motion carries on to item B, salary and stipend schedule. Take a motion to approve the 25-26 school year salary and stipend schedule.
I'll make a motion to approve the 2025-26 school year salary and stipend schedule.
I'll second.
All right, I think you all have already heard the recommendation for the staffing pay increase. A step 1.4% plus a 2% for salaried, $1 across the board for all hourly. Other than that, we tried, especially with me on the way out, tried to hold as consistent as possible for the next superintendent and the board to discuss any kind of, there's always discussion around restructure and different topics, right, administratively, specifically. But, that, for me, in the discussions with Christy, trying to maintain as consistent of a transition from this year to next year as possible, to then allow, other thoughts and other actions to take place. So that's basically reflected in the budget. There are a couple of things that are outstanding. I think I've discussed. The only two positions that we've had trouble filling, because we've been very blessed not to have any open positions, other than we still have to worry about sub. Right? We're not as bad off as other places, but we still have sub days that are unfilled. So we increased the substitute teacher pay over anything else that we've discussed to try to make it more competitive. And we've addressed bus drivers because we don't employ a full-time driver. It's very difficult to recruit a trip for out-of-district driver to come over and pick up an extracurricular trip after hours. So really trying to make sure that if we have a bus and we have somebody who wants to use that bus, you all have always paid for transportation costs, which is amazing, but we want to try to make sure that we always have a driver. And that has been probably the most problematic position to fill, so that one is increased differently than the other positions as well.
Are we still using Kenton County to pick up the slack for what we don't have?
We do. Do we still use Kenton County to pick up?
Pick up what we can't do in-house?
Yeah.
The driver.
Very easy for Kenton, what he's saying, it's very easy for Kenton to loan us a bus, but it's been harder to get a bus with a driver in the cockpit.
I was going to say,
Which
do
is
they
like
use
the
our?
airport situation that we all fear. You get a plane, but you don't have a crew. So for us, the reason why we're making that recommendation is to try to recruit those drivers because our kids are pretty easy to drive. So if we can be in that same pay range, we're hoping to pick up drivers who do extra routes because that's overtime for them. And some places try to reduce overtime, but for us, that's not an issue. I'm sorry, you had another question?
No, that was what I was going to ask about the drivers and do we use Kenton County drivers in our buses, or do we have to use their buses when we do that? Our buses, okay.
And, buying the used buses, and Justin and I have talked, I mean, that keeps your maintenance costs down, because if something big happens, just surplus it and go back and move forward. That has worked really well for us. And it really just boils down to trying to recruit more drivers. And we're at a huge disadvantage because we don't have daily routes, so we don't employ full-time drivers. So then, we're trying to recruit that differently. So those are the two changes. There's one position that was broken up into stipends that saved money for a 1 year. I think I've talked to you guys about that, but there's no major changes on the staffing allocations, on the salary or stipend schedules for next year.
On page 12, I was just curious what something was.
Page 12.
The classified supervisory role, there's 4 of them. What is that?
It's daytime maintenance supervisor.
Okay.
We had a nighttime maintenance supervisor that moved over that Justin retrained for more of the HVAC and some of the big areas. Tim is a maintenance, or is one of the supervisors. So it's a classified position that's hourly but oversees, or salaried, that oversees other classified roles.
Okay, and there's 4 of them?
And I'm losing a blank on the 4th. Jay, outside.
Yeah.
Outside maintenance.
Okay.
Indoor maintenance, systems maintenance, and then Tim are the 4.
Okay.
And again, the reason why we put those into place a long time ago is to try to maintain, our seasoned maintenance staff that are recruited for way more paid positions. So that was the reason that was put into place back in the day. We're down, and I will add that we were able to, a lot of the people that we lost to Amazon and other places, we were able, by outsourcing the maintenance, to cover that cost, but to maintain the people who really, our outdoors looks amazing, our indoors is running well, we have more overlap and knowledge of the systems, so that's been a good return and, on the investment. Any other specific questions about? The other one, which you are fully aware of, one more, is we put the band into specific categories because we have the problem that our numbers were getting higher than you all had approved because of the pay coming in from the boosters offsetting that cost. We're just going back and clean that up to make sure that everything's on paper for you to see as it should be by statute.
As far as maintenance goes, and I'm not sure if this is a Justin question or you question, but the new, like you were talking about, new building and then everything being outsourced, has that been good?
I've been really pleased with the product, but I'll let the principals and everybody else speak to it. I haven't heard any complaints from staff. They're here. They seem to do a really good job. We haven't had any problems that I'm aware of.
When did that start? Was that the beginning
Beginning
of
of
this
the
year?
year.
Okay. So do they have a manager that comes in, or is that like by somebody here? Okay. Mhm. Okay. Thank you. Okay. I think we're good.
Ready?
Yes.
Mrs. Berger?
Yes.
Mr. Burns?
Yes.
Mr. Hood?
Yes.
Mrs. Slate?
Yes.
Mrs. Wood?
Yes.
Okay, motion carries on to our third item, which is the consent agenda. take a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
I'll second.
Okay, approval of minutes. You all have some special meetings, obviously, so those are different than normal. Monthly bills, use of facilities. I do have to say that one of these happened before approval, and we try to keep that from happening, but we did have Lafayette come in and use the, I think it was the auxiliary gym to fold their tarp after a performance, so it wasn't a major thing, but they did use the facility. Davis County Band, Tri-State Ensembles, and then Homage Independent Incorporated is using, I think is the lower, or one of the gyms. Winter Guard, yeah, flag they do once a year as a I would call it a training or a workshop. So those are pretty typical for the band to help each other out when they're far away from home, and the others are typical as well. Odyssey of the Mind, you guys have always financed or helped support the Odyssey of Mind on their, is it national or world? Is it world? World. Is it in Iowa this year? Are we in Michigan? All right, there we go. This year, I think it's somewhere around $2,700. It'll help support the travel to Michigan instead of the land of corn. That is, you all have typically always done that and not had a problem with it. The Cats offer of assistance, we always take those. Leave without pay is normal. I'm going to skip G and come back to that one. New teacher mentor stipend as part of a grant. We had that in place. We've run a really nice induction program for new staff to be paired with a mentor. I think this is one place, even above normal places, that I've worked where mentoring someone on just the nuts and bolts of the community and the school is extremely valuable. So therefore, we're asking that you guys pick up the $500 for the mentor fee.
How will they how do they get paired up? Or do staff volunteer for that position, or are they encouraged
Yeah,
to?
go ahead,
How does
Zach.
that work?
Yeah. The building level principals,
Okay.
based on the position that's hired and the needs of the position, pick a mentoring teacher to be the mentor.
Is it for the whole year?
It is for the whole year. Monthly check-ins. And that has been really good. We did have some trouble, and I was really happy when we decided to pick this up. But we have had trouble, right? Communication, dealing with parents. I mean, things are different, and I'm not saying negatively, but it's a different place. So to be able to have that mentor to go to and ask questions without, asking your admin is a good, safe place, and it seemed to work out well for transitioning people in, because that has been feedback from new teachers that it is a difficult transition to make. It's a good transition, but it's difficult just from the needs of the kids, academic levels of the kids, and involvement of the community. Pay applications for Phase B, I have no problem with any of those, and then we'll come back to G. And I guess I could say that I was a bit surprised because I've never had when trying to keep a position. So we were notified in January 24th, 25th, that the mental health grant funding that funds one of our counselors was potentially on the chopping block for the federal grant reduction through the Department of Education.
Is that where it's from, the Department of Education?
Yeah, and most all grants are federal, right? Every once in a while there's a state grant, but even a lot of the state grants are still federal dollars sent to the state that then are disseminated out to schools.
At the state level.
Right? Now, in order to try to maintain a consistent staffing, we tried to look at what would our families really appreciate, and be able to provide the board a return on investment to at least look at whether it's a value add on outside of mental health, right? Which is a part of the normal job description for a counselor, right? And we have had a lot of discussions on getting kids to college and helping them get money to pay for college, right? That is, as college prices go up, everything we do academically and from a staffing standpoint, we try to look at that and address it. The one area that Alan and I had a lot of conversations about was looking at academic, athletic, and all extracurriculars. How could we help parents and students and support them in that quest for scholarship money? And somehow, and I haven't quite figured out, but we'll get down to it in-house, but somehow they got translated into that even though it was just an area of emphasis, that was somehow a replacement or restructure. We don't necessarily do that from our level. That goes to the high school principal. What we were discussing is how could we put a position and maintain a position, even if it was cut, that would at least give the board an opportunity to evaluate a return on investment above and beyond a typical staffing. And I think Ms. Sanders is exactly right. We staff way over the typical staffing for counselors. My background before Beechwood was always between 400 and 500 students per counselor, and we were excited if it was 400. We're staffed closer to 260 in the high school, which is right on the cusp of the strongest recommendation, which is 250 to 1. And in addition to the 3 counselors, you provide an outsource through Chunk to come in and provide counseling to our greatest mental health needs. So, we are very well, funded from the counseling standpoint, and I think the board has made a really strong determination to do that, especially since COVID, to support the mental health. But at the same time, we also have very high academic needs. So I think the confusion came down to this 11 and 12. I hope it's been clarified, but emails got going around that I didn't have a chance to respond to. But my recommendation is if we strike the 11 and 12, I can do that and bring it back to you for next session. But in no way was that dictating how Alan had to structure his services. It just meant like we have a counselor that's their main added extra item is mental health focus, and that's required by the grant. We just want somebody to learn and try to grow and expand the college transition for scholarship dollars, which is also a value add for our parents. So we'll go back and clean that up internally if it hadn't happened already. But I do think that we do need, and we have a responsibility to the board to come back and show the need, and that need is different to each one of our kids. And no one in my time at Beechwood has said scholarship dollars are not an issue to be addressed. So that was our only discussion area, and my only discussion area with Alan, and I think he would back this up, is could we include extracurriculars? 94% of our kids are involved in some type of extracurricular program. There's a lot of scholarship dollars out there that parents don't understand. I included, when the superintendent doesn't understand something, that's probably an area that we could grow on as a entity. And I did not understand, very specifically, I did not understand the value add that JUCO could have for a certain type of athlete. If I don't know that, I think there's other people that don't know that as well, especially since there's not a JUCO in the state of Kentucky. So it's all external, right? The difference between NAIA, Division III, Division II, Division I, right? All of those different areas are complex in their requests and their demands for student athletes. Right, so that was Alan and I's discussion. How could we include all of our extracurriculars, including band, including performing arts, including athletics, to have a counselor address and try to learn more from other places on how they do something that we currently don't do. It was as simple as that. So we'll go back and clean up.
And in no way are we taking out any kind of like mental health, like wellness.
And I'm sure
Portion.
not taking it out
No.
with
Well, I've heard
being,
that
right?
as well, that we were-
Being I've tried to keep everything as consistent as possible moving forward. I'm not going to die on a hill either way strategically. That doesn't make the board, that's not a win for you all. It's not, definitely not a win for me. But if the funding is on the chopping block, potentially, then I think we got to at least come back, if we're going to hold that staffing consistent, then we at least need to come back and say where we're going to try to look to get a value add. And that was the intent of the position, and that was the intent of the discussion between Alan and I. Alan, I never told Alan anything on how he had to structure his student body classifications. And, you know, definitely wasn't my intent. And again, we'll go back and clean that up internally.
But that can still be put out tomorrow?
Yes, that's what I'm asking. If you all
Okay.
approve it, all right, we'll go ahead and move forward. I'll strike the 11 and 12. I mean, that's not a problem. It's just scholarship support happens more at the 11th grade year for all kids. It didn't necessarily deem that Alan had to, but I need to be very honest. Alan can come back and structure it he has that ability, right? So I'm not going to mandate one way or the other, but I don't think his intent from what I heard was to try to structure just someone being in this position only. And you're more than welcome to respond to that.
Yeah, this is not a position that is of singular focus. My intent is to remain with the current structure that we have, but be more intentional with the college and career. Continue to make sure that we are getting the most out of our council and staff in that going forward.
And I think the only thing added, right, that doesn't exist just in some capacity is a focus on extracurriculars, right? And having those, in my opinion, right, and again, I can have that for a few more days, 6th grade, 7th grade, 8th grade, 9th grade parents need to have an understanding of, just like we talk them through and have conversations around building the scholarship application for academics, we need to have some of those conversations about the different opportunities for extracurriculars. I think that was the one addition. So with that being said, I'll strike the 11 and 12. If you all will give me permission to do that, I'll put it on next month's agenda with the same thing without that. I think that'll clarify that it is not demanding the high school principal in any way on how to structure. And other than that, it's just a way for you all to try to maintain a staffing after grant funding runs out.
And to be clear, so striking the 11 and 12, and then will we keep the college and career counselor title, or will it be high school counselor?
No, everything else would stay the same.
So it will be college and career counselor?
Yeah, because that's the area of focus, just like we have to deem somebody the mental health counselor
I see.
based on the grant funding. It's just an area of focus
Okay.
that we're asking, right, to make sure that we don't drop off, right? I mean, that's about as simple as that, because in a perfect world, we would have somebody that really understood how to look at all aspects of scholarship funding and be a value add to the whole staff. Maybe one on staff already has that. I mean, that's not for me to decide either. I don't hire the position. Yeah.
And so to make sure I understand, and I can direct it to Mr. Yankee if that's the right person, this individual that fills this role, hopefully, would still be offering the same type of social mental health services that the other two counselors offer to students with a caseload. Okay. So there will not be one less individual under the roof offering those services with this focus area added.
Correct.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure I understood that completely. And maybe I would like to know about our current arrangement. Right now, I believe I was told that the caseload was divided just by alphabet. That was essentially how they got assigned.
It is. We have 3 counselors, and they split the alphabet and they have those students from grade 7 all the way to grade 12.
Okay. And would it be your intention, assume this gets filled with somebody great, would it be your intention to keep that they keep the same person through?
It would be my intention to keep that.
Okay, because that's two of the bigger concerns I heard were, number one, overloading existing counselors by splitting the caseload by 2 instead of 3, and also disrupting these long-term relationships that some of these kids have built with a staff member. So it sounds like neither of those things would be a reality in the way you envision this playing out. Okay, thank you.
So just to clarify, it's still the chief advisor, right? We have to split this into 2 different topics, right? Topic number 1 is, as a board and as a superintendent, how do we maintain the current staffing and with the grant, without the grant, right? That's our job. How to structure and how to put the day-to-day things into place is statutorily in their world, right? We don't get into the personnel or the structure, right? So, but when something comes up that I think is very interesting, right? When you're trying to maintain the staffing with a potential cut in funding, right? Our job is just to try to look at what ways would be attractive to parents and potentially the board for long-term sustainability if you have to take on that cost versus, the implementation process, which is more on that side.
So I have another question then for Alan to follow up with that. So if you're saying that a third, you just do a third, but what about that group of kids that needs that focus under that new counselor? Do they kind of give and take so as long as everybody maintains the same course load?
Some of our counselors have certain roles attached.
Right.
They oversee AP testing, or they oversee wellness or college and career readiness that we already have in place. And that will continue to be a strength, but I think that the intentionality of that is something that the board wants to see put in place. So I think that will allow us to implement more for 11th graders and 12th graders as they
Other counselors see other people's kids on their caseload for different topics.
Yes, for different things.
Which is why
right,
the
yeah.
focus on 11 and 12.
Which has always been the case.
Right, because that's where the scholarships tend to, happen, and the 2 college tends to happen. And potentially the year 13 that we've always talked about how to implement, right, which is why that was the focal point, because I do think that is another very creative opportunity, right, is to track and to help support the kids the first year they're out of school, which has been a discussion topic for cabinet for a long time, which is how to implement that moving forward. But again, not my intent. My intent was to try to maintain a consistent staffing formula in a year that typically I would have recommended, I would have brought it to the board, said, are we going to maintain this or are we going to cut this? But then the grant funding came back, or at least is paused. So that's why we had the discussion of okay, how could we sell this, which would be in addition to the extracurricular? Because again, if we go from $8 million of grant or scholarship funding to $9 million of scholarship funding, if I was Alan and a potential cut was going to be put on the table, I would be saying, listen, this position had this return on the investment, so we would love to hold that. But that's a next year's conversation.
Do we feel like so I don't know that I would ever use the term return on investment for counselors. I mean, a healthy, happy student. I understand where you're going with that, and sure, it'd be great if my students receive scholarships, academic or extracurricular or whatever, but has there been feedback to your knowledge that, oh man, we're over provisioned on counselors? I haven't heard that. I'm curious if there's been pushback like, oh goodness, why do we have 3 versus 2? Is there a return on investment issue we're trying to solve? Okay. Yeah.
But we do have a great luxury here. And I think that's, the advantage of being at Beechwood. We have certain values that we want to maintain. And that the board has put money into what we value and realize is important. And I think that's, having that third counselor makes a big difference. Now you're able to see more students for more reasons. You're able to implement programs, small groups, or do things that other schools wish they could, but they can't because they have such a disparity between the number of counselors and the students.
Yeah. Well, speaking as a parent, I'm very grateful for the investment that the school has made in the counseling program. So my students have benefited from it, and I'm very happy to support keeping the three counseling positions, certainly.
All right.
Any more questions? Brad, you're being super quiet over there.
Mine have all been answered by Mike,
Okay,
so
perfect.
I had a bunch of them, but
Check the box.
I can
Okay.
shut up now.
Okay. All right.
All right, ready?
Yeah.
Mrs. Berger,
Yes.
Mr. Burns,
Yes.
Mr. Hood.
Yes.
Mrs. Slade.
Yes.
Mrs. Wu.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, motion carries. On to information portion, superintendent's report. Do you have anything?
So we already gone over the finance. There's nothing I can add on that. Just a timeline moving forward. The stadium entrance has about 2 more punch items to finish up, and it will be done. The locker rooms have the signs in the middle of the circle to be added, and they'll be done. With just a couple very small punch items that most people wouldn't see. The auditorium, the projection date is May the 3rd for the auditorium completion. It looks really good.
Derby Day?
Derby Day. Derby Day. It's
Go
a
have
big
some horse
event,
racing in there.
right?
Yeah, we're gonna live stream it.
That's right, big event. The first potential event that we could have is May the 9th. That has not been over the top publicized, but I think it went out yesterday that Sweet Jazz is hoping to have
Sweet Jazz, I can't think
that.
of the name of their spring concert.
Sweet Jazz. Then the May board meeting, I don't think will need to change. And other than that, the only thing that we're still trying to work out with the inspectors is some fire suppression down in the basement area that is not going to be a concern. As far as the auditorium, should get occupancy for the auditorium for the end of the year stuff, and then punch the lower hallway when kids aren't in the building. They're going to need to do some things. They broke a tile in the main lobby. They're going to fix that after kids are out, just to make sure that they can protect it when they replace it. But other than that, we're starting to get to the end of the rodeo. I do need a working meeting this month, and I know you all have a ton going on with the other stuff, but you all have asked me to move forward as best we can with the BG1. Again, to keep it very simple, we've stripped it down in conversation with Jeannie, but I need to present that to you guys on the working meeting. That needs to be an agenda item that you all see the proposed budget and the proposed the guesstimates, and we stripped it down to everything that was either Title IX, code, or safety. Safety being an example like the track surface that is very uneven. We don't want to have trip hazards. Code from something like the baseball press box or the football press box, updating that to code, or Title IX, making sure that our female spaces have the same amenities as the male, which right now we are out of compliance in the softball arena because of a lack of a press box and stands. So stripped it down to those 4 topics. The only thing that is left on that is not one of those 3 areas was the 200 additional seats in the end zone for the band and the student body to try to give more space. Again, if that's something you all want to leave or take off, that's up to you. That's why we need to have the meeting to go over those items.
Are you proposing permanent ones, or are you proposing, okay.
Yep. And then after that, just hold or my recommendation will be to hold, to let some of the bonding recuperate, and then you all can make the decision whether you need the
Did you say
academic
tennis?
building.
Did you
He
say
did not.
tennis?
Tennis courts would be a
Did not
safety.
hear that.
No, I didn't go through everything. I just said an example. The tennis courts would be a safety concern because the left side, if you're looking at them, are breaking off. All right.
So we just need to find a time for a working session, or we just need to keep a working session?
You all can do
keep
either. It'll be a special meeting, whichever one you move forward,
the
because there'll be an
28th?
agenda item.
Is it the
Yeah, it's scheduled
28th?
for the 28th.
28th at 6 PM is your working meeting date, so that would be
Okay.
very
We can
easy.
use that. Great.
We do
Yep.
have a meeting on 4/24 that's combined with the selection committee as well.
Yes.
So.
I would be
know we
more
all
than-
have those dates, but
I would be more than happy to come an hour early or an hour later, or we just keep it on the 28th at 6 o'clock. That's up to, you guys can decide that. We have plenty of time.
well, I think, we don't have plenty of time. We're already in April too.
Okay, let's rock and roll then. 28th at 6 o'clock?
Yeah.
I think 28th at 6 works great.
28th. Is everybody good with that? Can they keep that date?
Can.
Okay.
That's the one where I'll be in Disney.
Oh, are you 4/24 also?
Yeah,
Right.
4/24, I'm here. The 28th is when I'm in Disney.
Okay, then could I talk to you individually? And not that you'll be here to vote, but could I talk to you individually to see if you have a problem or a concern with any of the items? And then that way you could maybe add a discussion item to the end of the 24th meeting to discuss before you leave?
Is it the same with working meetings that I
Wait, we
could
don't-
theoretically appear remotely?
We're not voting at a working meeting.
I said
Unless
there'll
you
be
make
a special meeting.
Okay, gotcha.
I will need an approval
For a special
on
meeting.
the items and the total, right, to be able to move forward.
Can Kyle attend remotely to a special
He
meeting?
can, if you're able to do that, you can attend remotely.
From
We still
Hollywood
have,
Studios?
yeah, we still have it's very easy with the new thing that was put in during COVID. Very easy.
As much as I would love 40 minutes away from my family after 5 days in Disney.
Yeah. I don't
You
think,
can
if I can
decide.
go over it with you each individually, it shouldn't be a long meeting, but I'd be more than happy to do that ahead of time, anybody that wants. What time's your meeting on the 24th?
6.
6? Okay.
Yes.
All right. Sounds good. Outside of that, we should have everything checked off. We do have one thing else that will happen after school. The new entrance into the maintenance portion of the back hallway, I think you all would call it, where the locker rooms are. There has to be a step poured. We want, and have to rework some asphalt around that. That will not happen until school's out either. So the basement and this stoop will be the two areas that we will hold until after kids get out. All right, that's all I have.
With regard to the punch list on the construction, I'm sure with a project this size, there's probably going to be a couple lingering things that extend beyond July 1. Is that safe to say?
I hope not.
You feel that good? That you think
I
by
hope
July
not.
1 we'll be squared away?
No, I hope
That's great.
not. If they will send the number of men and workers, women as they should, we should have the punch list. There's a couple items also. There's some concrete work out front that I think someone called. That'll also, any concrete work will happen after kids, because the last thing I need is
Kids walking through.
kids walking through it. But I sure hope we're not into July.
Let's hope.
Did they ever come back and cut the trees back?
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah, the trees have been trimmed to where they thought they were safe. The one that got struck by lightning is still on, so if you're looking out from the building to the road, the closest tree to the steps to the right was hit by lightning several years ago. I mean, it's holding on, we're fertilizing it, but that one is still our number one concern. Any other questions? All right.
Take a motion to make the agenda part of the official board minutes.
I'll second.
I'll first.
Oh,
Yeah,
sorry.
yeah, that's
Sorry.
okay.
Sorry.
That's okay.
Okay.
Mrs. Berger?
Yes.
Mr. Burns?
Yes.
Mr. Hood?
Yes.
Mrs. Slate? Mrs.
Yes.
Wood? Yes, thank you.
Okay, any other business, spring sports, anything? We got anything? Spring activities?
Baseball made the, what do you call it, sectional round of the All-A. They play Brossart. Did Brossart win that game? Play Brossart tomorrow, or I think it's tomorrow. So that sectional game, if they win that, they go to Owensboro for the final 8.
Oh, Owensboro? Didn't they usually go to Lexington, or?
Well, it was in Owensboro, then it went to Richmond, and then now it's back at Owensboro.
Okay. All right, anybody have anything else?
I do not.
Not at all.
Okay.
Although, Mike, thank you for clearing up the counselor information for me.
No problem.
Okay. All right, well, we'll take a motion to adjourn.
I will make
So
a motion
moved.
to adjourn.
I knew, I can
I
always
always
count
get
on you
that
for that
Always in
one.
there when all right. Everybody agree?
Yes,
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
thank you.